Hey everybody, I'm Zee Garcia, and today we're going to be visiting an extinct civilization and gathering their forgotten resources in Ilos. In Ilos, the players are going to be playing out cards from their hands in order to conquer territory on the islands that they are discovering. And you'll be doing that by playing new tiles to the board, expanding the islands available to you, and playing cards from your hand in order to take over spots on those islands. And you pay for those cards by discarding other cards from your hand. So what you do and how you manage your resources is very important, as well as how you get your economy going. So let's take a look at how the game goes. We'll come on back after that, and I'll tell you what I think of it. So here's what the game might look like after it's all set up, in this case for 3 players. The objective of the game is for the players to collect these different goods here, such as ebony and spices and gold, and then have the prices of the goods they've collected increase right over here, and at the end of the game have the most valuable collection of goods, all right? And so to achieve that goal, they are going to explore these islands, and they are going to deploy their little explorers here in order to get the goods from those locations and generate those resources. So at the beginning, everyone has their wooden tokens there, and everyone is given a hand of 5 cards. We'll have these set up here, and then there will always be 3 of these tiles face up. I'll just put those off screen, though, for our example here. And then you are ready to begin. Each round for each player is going to have 3 phases. The first thing you do is you play cards, and that's optional. You can not play. You can play as many as you want to. And you'll have to be paying for those cards often with other cards from your hand. After that, you are going to produce resources, and then after that, you'll draw more cards into your hand. So I'm going to be the yellow player over here, and I have a hand right now of 5 cards. As I said, everyone starts with that. So I can use these to do some actions on the board. So for example, if I play this card here, and every card is sort of laid out the same way, it'll tell me in this top corner here what the card does. It'll tell me on this other corner the requirements. So in this case, this card is going to allow me to put one of my little characters on a location and claim that location, putting one of the matching tokens, in this case the spices here, in my collection board there out in front of my screen, my player screen. And then for me to be able to do that requires that I have a ship at that island, which I do. It's right here. And then I'll have to discard 2 cards, or 3 if I'm being affected by pirates. All right? So let's say I do that. I'm going to play that. I'm going to discard 2 cards. And I'm going to, I'll discard these 2 here. And I am going to put that token right there, and my character and that token right there. I could continue playing cards, as I said. So let's say, for example, I want to play this card here, and this card is going to allow me to possibly expand the map and move one of my ships. So what's going on here is I'm allowed to add a new tile if I want to, and I'll dock a ship from my stock at that location, on that island. Or I could place a ship. I could just move a ship, by the way. I don't have to add a new piece of land. But I could also just put a ship in one of the pirate locations, such as this one right here, increasing the prices for other players to take a few different actions at the islands next to that pirate location. That would that would mean this whole island, and this island, if it grows even more, it continues to affect the entire island. So let's say I'm going to do that. I discard 1 card, as it says here. So I'll discard this last card in my hand, and I will pick one of the 3 face-up tiles. So let's say I'm going to do this one here, and I will add it on to the board. I could add it right there, as long as the sides match, and you are adding land to land, so never just sea to sea. I'll do that, and then I could dock one of my ships right there. So I'll put one of my ships there. And that's it for my playing cards phase. I'm out of cards, so I'm done. Step 2 is collecting resources, as I said. And so I'm going to produce everything that's in the front here and put that behind my screen. I do want to know that I don't get rid of this. I just make another one, and I put that one behind my screen. And so, if much later in the game, I have these things sitting out here in front of me, every time I produce resources, I make all of that. So I would get one of those, I would get two of those, and I would get one of the ebony, and I get all of them behind my screen. And so you are generating whatever you are occupying every round. Very important to note that. And then the last step of my turn is, of course, to draw new cards. I will get 3 new cards always, plus 1 per ship that I have on the board. So that's another 2. And there's also a kind of building that might give you some bonus actions. Then it would be the next player's turn. And this is going to continue around the table until someone has deployed all of their characters. And once they've done that, you finish out the round and you figure out who the richest player is based on each of these that they have behind their screen would be worth as much as denoted on the small board over here. And one of the actions in the deck of cards is to allow you to increase the price of something, all right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the different cards that are in the deck, and that'll be it for our overview here. That should give you a pretty good idea of how the game works. There are 6 different kinds of cards. You've already seen this one here, which lets you take over a spot that produces one of these 3 basic resources, and you must have a ship docked at that location, pay 2 cards, maybe 3 if you're being affected by a pirate. This next one you saw as well, it allows you to expand the map, move a ship, or introduce a new ship, or possibly take over a pirate spot and mess with your opponents a little bit. This one is the one that's going to allow you to move up on this track here. So let's move this over a bit and explain how that works. You can do this one only once per turn, as opposed to everything else. You can play as many cards as you want to and are able to pay for. You'll give up a resource from behind your screen. So let's say I have one of these behind my screen. I would discard that. That's the cost. And then I increase that kind of resource over here on the board. I would simply take one of these and move it over, cover one of the spots, and each of those is now worth 2. And this can be done 8 times in total, with these values ending up in different places depending on the players and how the game plays. So that's how that works. The next one we have here is one that allows you to build. You'll be able to build 2 kinds of buildings in the game, and they allow you to take a couple of different actions or give you a couple of different abilities. The fort over here is going to protect you against pirates on that island, and it is going to allow you to draw a 1-card bonus during the draw phase. And then over here, the trading post is going to enable you to copy 1 resource, not gold, ebony, spice, or pigments, from a spot on the same island that is already covered by someone else. So that lets you copy something else, and again, you would simply mark what it is you are copying, and then place one of your characters on there, and take that matching token, put it in your on your board in front of your player's screen. So that's how those work. This next one allows you to take over one of the gold mines in the game, and here we have a tile that is going to show you that's one of the gold mines there. So you could put a character there, place a gold token on your player board, there it is, and then start generating gold, which is of course worth more than the other 3 resources in the game. They're a little bit more rare, and they are quite expensive because you need 5 or possibly 7 cards and 2 ships docked around the island to which you are going to place a character and occupy that gold spot. This one here lets you place one of your characters in a temple. And the temples, which you can see there, right there is a temple. You could occupy that. And that is going to cost you 7 cards. You need a ship around that. And you immediately get 3 gold coins. These go right behind your screen. So directly behind your screen, not out in front of the screen on the board in which you generate resources, all right? And so that's it. That's all of the different kinds of cards. So that's it for the gameplay. Let's talk about it, and let me tell you my thoughts on the game using my target audience system here. Starting with the first T, that stands for thematic ties. I like the theme in this game. I think it is well implemented. It is captivating enough, and I also like that the designers took the trouble to set the action in a place, in an archipelago that is long abandoned, and it gets around the issue of, armies clashing. You are, yes, stealing the goods that are left over there, but there is no fighting in the game with natives or anything like that. So I think it's a nice theme, and I think it works well. The aesthetics are fantastic. They are just stunning looking. Love the tiles. The picture that they will form is very inviting. You kind of wish you were visiting this place. And then the artwork on the cards is very attractive as well. All the components, the tokens, the characters, all good. I was a little bit worried at first about your tiny little wooden characters being too small, but I did not have a problem with it. You basically place them there and then can forget about them. And near the end of the game, I personally was having just a little bit of a visual clutter issue going on, but of everyone I played with and the games I played, no one else shared my concerns. So it's a very minor thing anyway. Replayability and scalability. Well, on the one hand, I like the playing with the higher player count because I like there being more action between players. Not that there's a lot of interaction, but you can take resource spots, I should say, from other players. But I don't like the downtime, which I'll talk about in 1 second. So I prefer the game somewhere in the middle player count, leaning towards the lower player count. Let's say 3, and 4 is okay. I would probably not bring this one out with 5. As far as replayability, I think it's just okay. It's not bad, but it's just okay, and most games are going to play out in a very similar way. This game, you might back one resource, and in the next one, you go for the ebony, and try to push that up. Make it worth a lot of points. But the play is largely the same from game to game. Maybe Pirates this round, and I'll go strong with that. Maybe next game I won't do that. But overall, the replayability is just all right. The game length and downtime. I think the game length is appropriate. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the game is too long, but I did think that there was a solid amount of downtime, especially later in the game. And mostly that comes from having so many cards, because you'll be drawing 3 cards plus a card per ship plus a card for each of those fortresses, and then you're looking at this whole hand, and if your players are not real good about planning ahead, assuming they can plan ahead, and the status didn't change, then yeah, there's going to be a little bit of downtime, which again is compounded by playing with 5 players. So I'm not quite giving this a positive in this category, almost, but there's a little bit of downtime, And the game length though is great, and once you run out of your 10 little explorer characters, then that's it. Game's over. So it's a fairly quick play. You're just gonna be waiting a little bit while the other players figure out what cards they want to play and do their thing, The ease of play, if there's any fiddliness, iconography issues, anything like that, didn't have any problems with that. I thought the idea of generating your engine in front of your screen and then making that stuff every round was cool, and the games have been close, which I was a little bit worried about at first, that the scores were going to be problematic, because if I got off to an early start with some resources, I would be making more things than you, which you do, but the other players can mitigate that by penalizing you with the scoring being higher for the thing you're not collecting, and with pirates. So it all seems to work out well. I like that the scores are pretty tight, and the game is easy to play. And then lastly, tactics and strategy, and if there's any luck, anything like that, you're drawing enough cards in the game where I don't think the luck is that much of a problem. Yeah, sometimes the players were, talking about how they couldn't get this one thing that they were looking for, which is fine. It's a card game, or it's partly a card game. But overall, it did not feel too punishing. It did not feel so swingy that it was a randomly determined winner. It felt like those that get off to an early start were able to avoid the other players, were able to go to lucrative locations, were able to pull off the win in the game. So I liked the tactics in the game. There's a nice amount of reacting to what's going on, growing the islands. You do have 3 face-up tiles to pick from, so that's nice. So it all works well. overall, I enjoyed the game. I think it's a nice one. It's certainly a very it's a charming game. Ultimately, it's a very, very charming game. The look of it is charming. The gameplay is breezy in many ways. It's a pretty quick game to get going with. And you do feel like you are building up, and I enjoy that in games very much, especially games that are fairly short and able to pull off that feeling. In this one, you definitely get that. This idea of near the end of the game, I'm generating all these resources, I'm controlling all these spots, my ships are out there doing my work, I've got this temple I grabbed a bunch of gold from, and I've got some gold mines, and I've pushed up, whatever is on the track. Gold is really pricey now, so that I did that. I enjoy the feeling of the game. So overall, while I do have some issues with this one, do enjoy it. I think it's a good one for those of you out there that enjoy lighter Euro games, let's say family weight Euro games. So this one's going to get a seal of approval from me, and I am going to recommend it. It's a neat game. That is Elos, and I'm Zee Garcia. I will see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.